Please call immediately on our department number.
They drive us crazy.
We just suspend your social security number because we found some suspicious activity.
Americans got nearly 5 billion robocalls last month, nearly 2,500 every second.
We have to issue an arrest warrant under your name and get you arrested.
But at long last, some relief could be on the way. Last week, President Trump signed the Trace Act, which gives phone companies the right to block robocalls.
The onus is going back on the carriers, and that's the beautiful part about this.
Cybersecurity expert Scott Schober says the law is coming just in time.
It's about 70% of Americans, when our phones ring, we're just not picking it up because it's such a nuisance that we're kind of tuned out.
The Trace Act takes aim at one of spammers' favorite tactics, spoofing phone numbers to make it look like a local call. Phone companies will be required to use technology known as stir-shaken to authenticate phone numbers with a digital fingerprint. Calls that don't match up will be flagged or rejected. But not everyone is convinced the technology will work.
Well, I think people misunderstand what stir-shaken is. It is not a panacea for the robocall problem as a whole.
Ethan Garr is the creator of the robocall blocking app Robokiller.
There's no legislation or enforcement that can solve this problem alone. It's going to be technology fighting technology.
Garr predicts spammers will either develop technology to fool stir-shaken or just buy real phone numbers that the system won't be able to detect. As a result, he says, people will still need to ignore robocalls or invest in call blocking apps like his.
Wanted versus unwanted, legal versus illegal, these are complicated things. Robokiller is able to combat these things because we use machine learning, audio fingerprinting, and other technologies, including user feedback, to really power an algorithm that can make a good call blocking decision.
The Trace Act also toughens up penalties for illegal robocalls to up to $10,000 per call. But as our investigation found, enforcement is a lot harder than it seems.
Unfortunately, the origin of most of these calls, as we've talked about, come from overseas. It's expensive and it's hard to trace them down and actually stop them.
In fact, since 2015, the FCC has fined robocallers more than $200 million. But the Wall Street Journal found they collected less than $7,000. That means for every $100,000 in fines, the government got just 3 cents. The FCC still has to write rules determining exactly when a phone company would be allowed to automatically block calls. After all, some automated calls are important, like reminders from the pharmacy or messages from your child's school. The law isn't expected to be fully implemented for 12 to 18 months. In your corner, I'm Walt Kane, News 12, New Jersey.